What's up, everybody, and welcome to the post-game edition of the Chicago Football Show. I'm Scott Bair, and this is Nicholas Moreano, and we are coming to you after the Bears won their fourth consecutive game by a score of 26-14 over the New Orleans Saints, and they haven't beat the Saints in a very long time. As a matter of fact, Nick, fun fact, they haven't beat the Saints since 2008, and there's one of us who was at that game, a younger version at that game, and not only were you at the game, you made the broadcast.
I made the broadcast, you guys, and just because it is Bears Saints. This was what got me, I think, on TV. Grandmother made a scarf.
Grandmother made a scarf.
A few claps, threw it over the shoulder. That was the last time the Bears beat the Saints. But now, that's obviously not the case because of the 26-14 victory that the Bears had today. But shout out to Grandma for making the scarf. Still have it today.
Made a great scarf, by the way. Go
Yes.
up, find Nick's social media platforms. It's only been viewed 171,000 times. So catch a young Nicholas Moreano at the last time the Bears beat the Saints. It was a weird game, man. I don't know how else to define it. There was some inclement weather early that may have played a part. The Bears offense didn't look great all the time, but as we're going to break down in our three keys to this Bears victory, Bears rushing game, defense somehow gets even more takeaways, and then we got to keep it real a little bit by the fact that some of the offensive players were not thrilled with how things went. Before we get to that, let's start with the run game.
Yeah.
Nick, 40 rushes, 222 yards, DeAndre Swift over 100 for the second straight game. And they closed out the game with the ball on the ground. Pretty impressive from Ben Johnson to the blocking to the backs.
And look, it wasn't just DeAndre Swift. Kyle Monungai was getting involved. You even had Roshan Johnson getting a carry in the game. But I think this is the type of offense that Ben Johnson always wanted to run here, Scott.
I agree with you.
And it just took some time for the players themselves to start executing some of these blocks, the runners to find the holes, find the lanes, and then start getting some decent gains on the ground to allow this offense to do what it did today, what it did in the game against the Commanders. But you're starting to see the run game start to become efficient, effective for Ben Johnson's team right now.
And it's both backs, right? And it's when you look at the blocking up front, they're being aggressive. Darnell Wright is leveling up before our very eyes, and Drew Dahlman is starting to figure it out on the inside. Joe Tooney playing like a Hall of Famer. Theo Benedict, and we can get to this more, he said he didn't play winning football today. He had a rough start, but I think overall the blocking up front worked. I also think, and we talked about this on last week's edition of the Chicago Football Show, the play calling was a little bit different today. They were really trying to get wide, get off the edge, and get Swift into space. They were a bit more between the tackles, but lots of shifts, lots of motions, lots of eye candy, things that can cause you to hesitate. So I think Ben Johnson deserves an attaboy for this performance too.
Absolutely, and you also saw more, I think, two tight end sets in this. So I would love to see the official number of this, but there are a lot of times where Colson Loveland's going in motion and crackbacking on a block. You got guys like Cole Kmet as well trying to contribute for this run game. So, again, this is a offense that wanted to run the football in the beginning.
Yeah.
They're starting to and being really effective with what they're doing on the ground, and that's just going to open up things for this offense there, Scott.
Yeah, I look at that, and I look at DeAndre Swift. He takes things personally. He doesn't say a lot. He's kind of introverted, I guess, from my perspective. Yeah. But you could tell that being inefficient was kind of weighing on him a little bit over the first couple of games. Now, he's a grinder, definitely, but to see it pop and to see him doing the things that he can do. We saw a number of explosives. We saw a long pass reception down the sideline too. That it's about playing to your player's strengths. DeAndre Swift is not Jahmyr Gibbs. He's definitely not David Montgomery. And he's his own dude. And I think that because they're working to get him in good positions to succeed, that's good coaching. That's good blocking. And I think that it's so important on a game where the passing game didn't really look all that great that they were able to do that. One thing I'm curious about, 40 times. But a good running attack can be a closer in baseball, right? Bring him in the ninth inning, eat tons of clock, produce, move the chains. Really impressive in the fourth quarter, too, when everybody knew that the Bears were going to run, and they were still efficient running the ball.
That's how you know you're a good football team. When the opposing defense knows what you're going to do, but you still do it anyway, and you can still be on track, pick up positive gains. And, that's what the Bears did, especially in that second half. They were able to rely on their run game because, like you said, the passing game just wasn't as consistent.
It was not.
Whether it was field conditions, Caleb Williams being off on certain passes, but you could, when one aspect of your team is not hitting on the cylinders at what you want, you got to be able to revert back to some of the other things. And the run game was that for the Bears offense today.
Yeah, and that's your foundation. And defensively, I said, 40 carries, 222 rushing yards. How about this stat? I'm sorry, let's get it right. 15 takeaways in the last 4 games from the defense. And I love that Dennis Allen said, don't you call them turnovers because we are taking the ball away. That's what they did again.
That's what Trevon Dexter told me in the locker room, too. He's like, hey, don't say takeaways. Exactly.
Don't say turnovers.
Don't say turnovers.
We're taking the ball
away. And I like that mindset from this defense. They are starting to create problems for opposing offenses where if you're a quarterback that's staring down a target, Kevin Byard's most likely going to intercept you. That's what they're doing right now, Scott. Creating more opportunities for the offense. Whether or not they can capitalize doesn't matter. It's that this defense, when it has an opportunity to take the ball away, it's going to do it.
Yeah, and I think that the Bears pass rush gets criticized, and appropriately so sometimes, for not getting the volume of sacks. But they were super aggressive. Dennis Allen's blitzing, especially with the defensive backs, was very impactful. And I think this was Montez Sweat's best game of the year. I thought he was really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't even just when he was affecting the quarterback. There were a couple of run stops that he had throughout the game on a 3rd and 4th down.
On the 4th down play,
they
huge.
Turned the ball over on downs, the New Orleans Saints. So that's Montez Sweat starting to create more of a consistent impact. And that's what they need from him. Is their best pass rusher. You need to have Montez Sweat really show up when it counts.
Yeah, and he talked to the press, which is a rarity, and he was saying that the turnovers can be contagious. Everybody wants in, and he has 2 forced fumbles in the last 2 games, and it's not by accident. It's not by – he's punching the ball out, and those things are being effective. And and he did get 1 sack. He's starting to get after the quarterback a bit more, and the Bears definitely need that from their highest paid player. They need him to crank it up and be the engine that runs that pass rush. But let's go back to Dennis Allen. Now, look, we all know that you have multiple screens watching all 22, and you've only seen this game live. But what were your impressions of Dennis Allen's play calling, especially as it comes to blitzes or simulated blitzes?
Yeah, going into this game, Spencer Rattler had done a pretty decent job at facing the blitz.
Yeah.
I don't think Dennis Allen cared.
He did not.
Completely honest.
He did not.
Because when you watch this game, and it'll be interesting to go back to the all-22 of it, there was a lot of times, Scott, where there were 6, 7, there was even 8 guys at the line of scrimmage at one point.
At the line of scrimmage. And this is a young quarterback looking around being like, who's coming?
You don't see. That's the thing. You don't know with Dennis Allen. I think doing that in this game, he wanted to test Spencer Rattler, and for the most part, Dennis Allen was able to get what he wanted, create some quicker passes, create some turnovers, and that's why the result ended up being what it was today.
Yeah, and it was a strong one, but not everybody loved what happened on the field. If you talk to some offensive players, especially those involved in the passing game, Caleb Williams included, they were not thrilled. And in your stock up, stock down, the quarterback probably needs to be pointing down. He didn't have a great game, and I think that there were some issues with the passing game. Always good to fix in a win, but what was the vibe that you caught from Williams and from the offensive players?
Yes, I mean, just even hearing a little bit of Caleb Williams' press conference, he was self-critical of himself, knowing that he needed to be better, will be better, is going to look at this game and look at ways at how he can improve his game moving forward. But I think that's when you watch the game, usually stats don't tell the full story of a game, but even if you look at Caleb Williams' stats and then just remember the performance, it seems about right. A guy that threw an interception, late on a couple throws. But when you have your run game playing as effective as it was, the defense creating turnovers, you can still win a game even if the quarterback's not playing at his best. And that's what's good about this latest Bears victory.
And they scored 24 points. Again, they've scored at least 21 in every game so far, at least 24 in all but one game. And that's good considering that they're not scoring touchdowns as efficiently as they would like to. Another big game from practice squad elevation, Jake Moody. I think he hit 4 field goals. 4 field goals after he hit 4 plus the game winner last week. And that's really important because Soldier Field is messy and the wind swirls and the surface was slick. But to come out of that with a victory when you're still not, I don't think they're anywhere close to their best version of their game. They're kind of pulling from different levers to find a way to win. And we're going to talk about this later. It will not be as easy against Baltimore. I don't care what Baltimore's record is. They're playing Baltimore next week, but I think this passing game has to get revved up. I thought Rome had kind of an uneven game, that there were some tough catches, but catches that we've seen him make where he can strong arm, and those were hitting the turf. Now, it wasn't completely lost. Colston Loveland had a couple nice third down conversions, and I think that there were positives, but what are you going to be looking for when you go back and eye in the sky, all 22 of it? I think, putting pluses and minuses on Caleb Williams' plays, there might be more minuses this time.
Yeah, there might be, and I think it's just accuracy, looking at the footwork too. I think that's usually the thing with Caleb Williams. When there is a pass that's not quite on the mark, where are his feet?
Yeah.
Where is that in relation to where he needs to be when a pass concept comes open? So those are just a couple of things that I know I'll be paying attention to as I go back and rewatch this game about 300 times.
Yeah.
That's what I'll be watching for.
And he took some sacks, and he tried to kind of Houdini it at times and make plays. He had Luther Burden coming back to the ball once, and he kind of hit a ground ball basically, and kind of didn't get it there. So I think that there's a lot of meat on the bone, and that's the important thing as they continue to work on and fix problems. We have seen proof of concept. Ben Johnson is good at going into the lab, diagnosing, and fixing it. That's what he did during the Week 5 bye. This run game has been firing on all cylinders since then. Real positive. Now Ben Johnson has to go back with Declan Doyle and try to get this passing game worked out. And as they move forward, they have 2 road games coming up against Baltimore and then Cincinnati. And after the break, Nick and I will break that down and tell you the best thing we saw and heard from the Bears locker room coming up next. Welcome back to the Chicago Football Show, post-game edition. I'm Scott Bair, that's Nicholas Moreano, and we're back after a 26-14 victory where the rushing game absolutely dominated and the trend of defensive takeaways kept on going. And every week we have a segment where the best thing we saw and heard from the locker room. Nick, you were talking to a lot of different folks one-on-one. What was the best thing that you heard that probably nobody else did?
Yeah, so I have to go to my phone here to get the exact quote from Daniel Hardy. Plays a lot of special teams, defensive end for the Bears. But
fiery individual.
Very fiery individual. Also delivers a lot of big hits on special teams.
Yeah.
And so I was going around asking everybody what kind of caused you guys to be in position to make these big-time hits. And here's what Daniel Hardy said. He said, fear is the only advantage we have on the defensive side of the ball. We got to make dudes worry about protecting themselves more than protecting the football. That's where turnovers happen. We're a bunch of mean mother, and we can't say that part there. But that just, I think, creates the mentality that you're seeing not only from Daniel Hardy, from the defensive players on this team. When there's an opportunity, Scott, to go out and lay a opposing offensive player out, they're going to take that opportunity. It kind of shows with that quote that Daniel Hardy had.
Yeah, and I think mine, it's tough because I did want to bring up how honest Caleb Williams was about, yes, it was a win, and the run game got us there, but I need to be better. He was very candid about that fact. But let's go to Kyle Manungai.
Yeah.
Afterward was talking about this Bears run game and talking about Ben Johnson and the level of effort and detail that he put in to getting this run game right. Kind of took us behind the scenes, how much they're meeting as a run game unit, how much that they're trying to dissect every little detail so it's right, and that's how these runs work. Fun story. So Kyle scored his first professional touchdown in this game. He spun the ball on the ground and celebrated with his teammates and walked off the field, and DJ Moore goes, "Did you grab that ball?" And he was like, "Oh no, I totally didn't." And he thought it was gone forever, but they ended up finding it. And he says that he's going to give it to his mom, which that's what you should do,
yes,
right?
Yes.
But really happy for a guy who runs he hits the hole hard. The burst is aggressive. And to see him get involved and take advantage of those opportunities is good for the run game. It's good for DeAndre Swift. And they're about the same size. maybe.
Yeah, relatively.
But Kyle is maybe a more downhill kind of physical runner, not a lot of hesitation, one cut and go type guy. But to see him get involved, I think, is a really important thing. And to hear this guy's a 7th-round rookie, but to hear him talk about the details of the run game, he knows what he's talking about. He understands it conceptually and exactly what he's supposed to be doing. Really refreshing from such a young guy. How into the X's and O's part of it that he is. Really interesting.
Yeah, we were joking in the press box there, Scott, about Kyle Monunga. It's like he's going to hit the hole regardless of whatever's in his way.
Right.
Right? Like he's not going to bounce around. He'll hit it. And for the most part, Kyle's on the right tracks. And I know we've heard a lot about being on the right tracks with Eric Bieniemy as a running backs coach. So I think Kyle Monunga being another asset to DeAndre Swift in this resurgence of the run game, that's going to give DeAndre Swift some breathers when he needs them throughout a game. It's going to allow the running game to stay fresh, and you can have the two-back kind of system. It's not David Montgomery, it's not Jahmyr Gibbs, but it's the Bears version, what they have right now. You will take that because of obviously how effective they've been the past 2 weeks.
Right, and you think that if Caleb Williams is in the passing game, I don't think this is an issue where there's great cause for concern that this is a long-lasting problem because we've seen proof of concept going the other way where Caleb was able to move the ball downfield and where Rome and DJ were effective and Cole in the receiving game. So I don't think this is like doom and gloom. Are they ever going to be able to pass well? It could have been this specific scheme. Could have been a bad day at the office. They had a tough time with the center quarterback exchanges there.
Yeah.
It just seemed like it was just kind of off. But I don't think it's going to require a major course correction, which I think should be encouraging for Bears fans because they got a tough stretch coming up. Now, it's not as tough as we might have thought when the schedule came out, but in Week 8 at Baltimore, Week 9 at Cincinnati. Now, Cincinnati doesn't have Joe Burrow, but apparently Joe Flacco has found the fountain of youth, and I believe, although I don't think it's totally certain, that we might see Lamar Jackson in that game. He's a disruptor of the highest level and really an amazing athlete. Maybe one of my favorite players to watch as like a football fan. But the Bears are I think the Bears offense is going to need to put up more than 24, especially against a team like that.
And Scott, too, when the defense does, have opportunities to create turnovers and does make those things happen, as an offense, you can't turn great field position into just 3 points.
That is a great point. That's been happening too often.
Yeah, you can't do that against really good football teams. In Baltimore, regardless of what their record says, they still have a lot of talented players. So when they do have opportunities to create turnovers into touchdowns, Caleb Williams, Ben Johnson, that offense needs to be executing in those important parts of the field, especially when you have prime field position. Because, again, we've seen it the last 2 weeks where a bunch of turnovers are happening. Still, Jake Moody coming in off the practice squad is converting on those. That's great to do that, but you want to get touchdowns in those opportunities.
And I think they only had one touchdown off of a turnover. And you do need more of that. I felt like this game could have easily been a blowout and over in the first half, and that didn't happen. I think against Washington, which is a pretty good team, right? But against Washington, too often settling for field goals keeps an opponent hanging around, and sometimes it's a one-score game in the NFL, and it's just weird things happen. But you can avoid that if you can take advantage of the opportunities that you are given, and against Baltimore, you're going to have to do that. Now, I say this all the time. You're supposed to beat teams that are struggling. And then if you go 500 against everybody else, that's great. That's kind of my way to get the 6 or 7 seed, right? But as you look at it here, what do you need to see from the Bears coming up in this 2-game road stretch? They've shown they can win on the road. They've shown that they can win late. But this is going to be a tough test. And I think that if they play the way they played tonight or today against the Saints, if they play that way against Baltimore, I don't know if it comes out the same way. I'm not quite sure.
No, I don't think so either. And I think, Scott, what I need to see continue is this run defense continue to do what it's been doing.
Yeah, it's been better.
It's been better. So this needs to just not be a 2-game stretch. It needs to be a continued progress throughout the entirety of the season, because I think these defensive linemen are starting to figure out what each player is doing within their own responsibility to mitigate some of the big runs. So that needs to definitely happen when you face Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, if he's out there against the Baltimore Ravens. So you need to be able to continue to stop the run. And then we were just talking about it. Offensively, Caleb needs to hit some of these, I won't say layups, but you need to make some more on-target throws, capitalize when you get turnovers. And if you're doing that, on top of turning the ball over, having good run defense, playing well on special teams, then you are going to be a tough team to beat. We talked about that all the time. Like, if the Bears can learn to run the football effectively,
right,
they're creating these turnovers, they're going to be a tough team to beat regardless of who they're playing against.
Yeah, and I think getting TJ Edwards back has been huge. You can feel his presence, and you talked to him after the game.
Yeah.
What did you take away from that conversation?
Yeah, so I asked him hey, should you have had that interception? He looked at me, he's like,
probably yes.
Probably yes, yes. He knows he can make that play. He made a similar type of play against the Cleveland Browns a couple years ago. But he also, I asked him too about, like, how are you guys on all these positions deliver these big hits? It's like, one, it's the film room going into it, but we know that we don't technically need all 10 other players to make a play. We can go make a play ourselves as an individual. So when they do have an opportunity to deliver a big hit, like I said, these Bears defenders, they're looking to go do that.
Yeah, and I think even though it wasn't a bunch of eye-popping receiving numbers, I think the tight ends had a good day. And I talked to Colston Loveland about that, and he took a lot of pride in blocking. And this is a guy that maybe the knock on him coming out of the University of Michigan is he's a great separator. He's more of a pass-catching tight end. But the willingness to get dirty is definitely there. And he thumped a dude on the Saints today that sprung Swift.
Pancake block there.
Right.
Yeah.
And the guy actually got up and he was pretty pissed off. But you go back and you look at the tape, clean block. But they're using all three of their tight ends, really, right? And they're really kind of getting those guys involved in the run game. There's a lot of dirty work that I think those guys are doing that may go unrecognized, like by the naked eye. But I really do think, though, that it's an encouraging thing. It's also encouraging. I did ask Colston. It was a quick hitter, 3rd and 4 or 5, and it was easy pitch and catch. But the fact that Caleb Williams told him, quick route, get open, I'm coming to you, right? That in those key moments, he's starting to build that trust. Colston Loveland, I think that means something to him as he starts to establish himself. We still haven't seen that type of breakout, big number stats game, but you can see the evolution slowly. He's starting to kind of earn some trust.
Yeah, look, it was this game. He gets the 4th down reception that then you can kneel down the ball twice.
Right.
Go back to the Commanders game. He picks up a key 3rd down that eventually ends up being the game-winning field goal for Jake Moody.
Right,
so
that's true.
Colston Loveland at the end of these games, even though, like you said, not the eye-popping numbers as a receiver, but when you need it, hey, they went to Colston Loveland. Go make a one-on-one matchup, get open, and secure the catch. And he's shown the last 2 games, 4th quarter, that he can go out and do that.
Yeah, so I think that's going to be key for this draft class to continue to make an impact. We're seeing Shamar Turner playing end more than usual because they wanted some heft and some strength off the edge. I think that's another run defense move made over the bye.
Yeah.
And that's a guy who, look, I don't even know what his stat line looked like. I'm not sure if he had a tackle, but we're starting to see from him, okay, what are they doing different? We're starting to see Dio occasionally line up on the inside. There was one rep, at least, where it was him and Sweat right next to each other, and I think that there are some interesting things that Dennis Allen can do, especially if Sweat gets cranked up. We have not seen Dio get cranked up yet. He had a good game in week 1, kind of uninspired to that point, and I do think, though, it's kind of crazy because you look back at salaries, right? And he's getting paid $16 million. And is he playing up to his contract at this point? No, not yet. But I think that he will continue to grow with this line. That is going to have as big of a run defense test as you could possibly have. Derrick Henry is that dude. And Lamar is as quick as Jaden Daniels, if not quicker. And he can throw from the pocket. He can beat you with his legs. And I just think that there's a lot going on here. The Bears do have to play better. But what's your take on this 2-game road trip? What's a victory after those 2?
Oh, man. I mean, look, depending on the health of Baltimore and what you're looking at both these games for the Bears, you can win both these games. Very winnable games. I'm curious to see the health status, though, of some of the DBs for the Chicago Bears right now. They got banged up in this game, but I think you're looking at a road test where realistically how the Bears are playing 4-game winning streak, why can't they beat both these teams in the AFC North?
Yeah, and I thought that was interesting. Caleb Williams said it's about the know, and he meant K-N-O-W. It's about walking into a game knowing and believing wholeheartedly that you can beat that opponent. It's not always going to happen, he said, but when you walk in with that belief, it gives you confidence. And the proof of concept, we've seen it, right? They've been able to make fourth quarter comebacks. They've been able to hold on to leads like they did here on Sunday. And I think that those things are really important, and they're going to have to continue to do that against Baltimore. And we're going to continue to bring you the Chicago Football Show post-game edition, Nick and I, every single week. So be sure to download the Watch Marquee app, or obviously tune into the Marquee Sports Network or on YouTube. We're everywhere. And for myself and Nick's awesome scarf made by his grandmother, we are signing out, and we will talk to you again next week after the Bears play the Ravens in Baltimore.